boy. So how do now that we're back at it, how does an extraterrestrial define God? And also in the book, tell me if they use big G or little g. I'd appreciate that.
Yeah, they use big G.
Mm-hmm.
But he says, which your people, this is a power and chosen, which your people refer to as God.
Oh.
So, which are people. So he's not saying that there's no, it's Santa Claus. It's Batman.
You guys are calling it God. But.
Yeah. He explains a little bit more, and I think this is really good. And we'll jump right into it. He says, mankind, on the other hand, no matter where or when he may come into being, is endowed with the innate realization that there is an infinite intelligence and a supreme power which is greater than man's ability to comprehend.
No matter when, time doesn't matter.
Right. He comes into being no matter when.
No matter where.
Right.
It doesn't matter if you're here or there, some other universe, some other galaxy, some other dimension. The spirit knows that there is a supreme, intelligent, infinite energy. Ra calls it intelligent infinity.
Right.
The Pleiadians call it creation, all uppercase. And the power that creation carries is called It's a primal power. You are.
Yeah, which is interesting. I mean, in the Bible, there was where all wisdom came from. It's called land of So, yeah, and it talks about it pretty heavily.
Are you freaking kidding me?
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. But, Noah came from the land of So, which ended up, resetting the whole world, supposedly with the flood that happened, which they've scientifically proven there's been a flood.
There's been a deluge. Yeah. Actually, yeah.
Whether there's a guy in a boat with animals and stuff, that is a whole different story. But he says this, and I think this is really cool. During the many stages of his development.
Whose development?
Man's.
Mm-hmm.
Man's attitude towards the power may vary.
Correct.
So the power is there. It's infinite. But I don't like Ra's infinite intelligence. It's there.
The way we view it, our perspectives change.
Yeah, it can vary. And he says from fear and resentment to reverence and love.
Think about it. I heard there's a country song on the other day. It says, I'm a God-fearing Christian man. Why are you fearing your God? What about the stories where don't turn around and look at the city because God will turn you to stone?
Right.
Why is that? Why is this God all-powerful and you have to fear him? This thing's always in just total might and control over you. Why that perspective? And then what changes that perspective over time to it becomes?
It's even worse because
Tell me.
The fear part, you're talking about Lot and his wife. Mm-hmm. So Lot goes into this Sodom and Gomorrah, and then she turns to a pillar of salt. And the reason Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed, God destroyed it, is because they were doing gay activities.
So what?
So there was sodomy going on, according to the Bible. So, yeah, so what? Sodomy, so what?
Yeah.
Think about it. I mean, people, this is what you're believing in.
You got a story about your gods focused on sodomy?
And he destroys a whole city and kills everyone. And she wants it because she has this desire to turn back because she loved it. Maybe she didn't love the sodomy part, but maybe she wasn't involved, but she loved the city and everything that was in it. Now, there's a moralistic story with it in the sense of some of our past and the things that we love may not be good for us. But to burn a city down because of sodomy, and people will say, well, it wasn't that. There's fallen angels coming and they were, but Lot's daughters got raped, all kinds of stuff was going down. So whose choice is it to, ultimately the story is debunked and there's a falsehood in the story because any God that'll go against your free will and just destroy a whole city, creation doesn't do that.
Yeah, it's not creation.
Creation, whether you have a typhoon in Japan or in Indonesia and it wipes out a whole village, it's not purposely wiping out the whole village.
Oh, is it just picking out the bad people in the village?
Yeah, exactly.
No. Women, children, plants, animals, bugs, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. It's just the cycle of what happened. You had an earthquake out in the water, a seismic shift, and so the
now
wave
I got
comes.
a tsunami. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're at below sea level.
Right.
So what's going to happen?
Yeah, I got a tsunami. Oh, big rains, big typhoons coming in. Oh, great.
People don't realize that. It's so funny. I was watching, there's this great video online now of this. Somebody just took a video of a moose and a bear.
Fighting?
No. It's horrific. But the moose had like hurt itself and it was on the side of the road. Maybe it got hit or something by somebody. Big moose. And this monster grizzly, you have to watch it. This monster grizzly comes and is like, oh, food. So, and somebody's like on the side of the road recording this, so it just grabs it. Because you can, one swipe of a grizzly bear can break a back of a moose or elk, that people have seen that where they just running and then they swipe them really hard and it just breaks their back.
Low hanging fruit.
But it's grabbing onto it and it drags it over a little bit. And then it, bears are horrific. They're going to use claws in their mouth.
They peel.
They're going to peel you and rip you open.
Yeah.
So it's a horrible way to die if you're a human. But that bear, and we talked about this in the last episode with animals, that bear or that moose has no spiritual concept of what's happening.
No.
It's nature. It is what it is.
It's nature.
We can get emotional about it and be like, poor moose. Oh my God, the moose is getting tore up.
If that
but
moose
that moose doesn't have.
Bro, if you were standing there as a human being.
Right.
And the moose is watching you on the road and you get nailed by a semi, moose won't even think about it.
That moose is not going to be like, oh my God, poor guy. God, I feel sorry for him.
If a moose saw you getting picked apart by a bear, you'd be like, damn, I'm glad that's not me.
Yeah, exactly. Well, they just run. Yeah, I don't even think they have that thought.
No, they don't have that. I'm making a joke. They don't have that thought.
Yeah. Hey, Bill, did you see Jim over there?
Did you see that human? Damn.
Yeah, they're not. We make them out to be that way, and Disney and stuff has done that. But what I'm saying is, this infinite intelligence that has this ability to be able to have this higher. I mean, because Ra talks about him as being what, ninth entity. Is eighth.
So you get into seventh, which is high.
Right.
It's the top part of the octave, right before you move into eight octave.
But that's creation, right?
Eight is creation.
Yeah. So
that's the full unification.
And it's so interesting because I was thinking about this yesterday. Exactly the same thing, God and all of this, and I was like, it's eternal. Okay, there's no right or wrong.
No.
And then I was thinking to myself, why do I have such a short mindset on shit? And why am I judging things based off of right or wrong? We have such a short mindset.
Yeah.
If we looked at things with an eternal perspective,
mm-hmm.
What would that look like? You know what I mean? Like, what legacy would we leave?
That's why your perspective goes to love every time.
It should. Reverence and love. Yeah, that's what he talks about.
You know why? Because you revere the beauty and the infiniteness and the intelligence built in to...
He calls it instinctive desire in the book.
We do have instinctive desires, and we ignore it constantly. But the only thing you look at, you don't judge it. Mm-mm. That's why it's like, I don't judge Antifa groups. I don't judge, my parents. I don't judge my friends. They're just... I will observe and be critical, but I will not make a judgment because there's no love in that judgment. And I am not the end all be all. I'm evolving just as much as everybody else is.
Well, that's what he says. But he has always had the instinctive desire to learn more of the spiritual side of his nature and the creative sphere of this power. But I like this part, instinctive desire to learn more. That's in all of us.
We all want to learn more. When do you not want to learn more? When you're a baby.
When you're in fear and resentment, the learning cuts off.
It shuts off. When you're in retirement.
If I'm in Antifa and I'm at downtown Portland and busting windows out and shit like that, I'm not learning at all.
If I'm in disunity.
I'm in rage.
Yeah. If I'm in fear. Disunity, I'm not learning.
Mm-mm.
I'm essentially pushing away catalyst, right? If I'm trying to control nature, I limit catalyst. When you're a baby, you can see the instinct with babies. What do they want to do? Test, touch, very tactile, put things in their mouths all the time, feel it, smell it, crawl, observe the world. That's what's occurring. They have a natural instinct to learn. Regardless, we, as parents of children, will look at them and say, you got to do this in the world. You got to act like this. Don't touch this. Don't go here. This is how things work.
These groups are bad. These people are bad.
Correct.
This color is bad.
Now I'm actually narrowing down the possibilities of learning. And now I have programming. You see what's going on here? So you've limited your perspective. The key is to keep it wide open.
What were you? So you were. This is really beautiful when you think about this childlike perspective of creativity, where they're using all of their senses, touch, play, how we're designed, and then this ability to be able to not have to believe in a God, but to be able to see creation and see it in its full effect. And so to have this spirituality, if you want to use that word, I don't like using that word, but if you want to, just for us to understand it, would be for us to be in that spiritual awakeness, for us to be in that playful, creative, childlike towards nature, and then observing it, tasting it, feeling it, using all of our senses to learn from it.
Yeah.
That is spiritual awakening.
That's correct. I'm a vegan in quite a good sense. Mm-hmm. I've still tasted meat.
Right.
I understand.
Well, bro, you're beyond meat.
Nice.
No pun intended.
But I've tasted it.
Right.
I've owned guns. I've shot animals.
Right.
I've tasted those things. I understand what doesn't work for me, and I understand what does work. And it's not that I was trying to be negative or do something to create harm. It was just an idea of learning that I was going through.
It's an evolution. It's an evolvement.
It was a natural evolution.
Right. For you.
Yeah. Have I fought people before? Sure. Do I enjoy it? Not one bit.
Right. No, I don't think anyone.
Some people do enjoy hurting other people.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Like serial killers, narcissistic.
I don't enjoy that. Do you see what I mean though? I can't look at it as negative, but I've tasted these aspects of creation and I've learned from it. I'm trying to create that creative mindset and mentality, that childlike mentality, right? I understand risk more than I would as a baby because I do other things with risk, but I don't try to limit my experience. And what I found is I've experienced quite a bit for the young age that I'm at.
But it's a self-awareness of experience, like a self-awareness of your dreams, a self-awareness of when you're on a hike and a hawk flies by, or
Correct.
you see a little mole, like that's scurrying around. Beware of those things and learn from them.
And just understand that they're a part of the same system that you're a part of. Just because it's isolated 13,000 feet up on Wheeler Peak doesn't mean that mole or gopher, whatever the heck that thing is that screams at me, isn't also a part of me. It's sharing in that energy that I also share in. It's taking the same sunlight. It's breathing the same air.
Yeah, and he says those who say I don't believe in God are men who are in mental revolt against some particular concept of the deity. Their denial of that concept may be well-founded, but in the heat of their emotion, this is really interesting. He's talking about atheism. In the heat of their emotion or in the surge of their ego, they may say, if this concept is not valid, then no concept can be. In their hearts, they know better.
Correct.
And the Bible uses heart too, so he's probably using the same language that Dr. Fry would understand. The heart, but that center of being. It's a difference. It's the would you say it's the spirit or the soul?
No, so the soul's the psyche.
Right.
So it's conscious thought. The heart is that heart chakra is that understanding area. Neil deGrasse Tyson. I haven't seen UFOs, so they really don't exist.
Yeah.
Okay. What are you, an atheist towards extraterrestrials? You an atheist towards probability? You know what I mean? You can't cut yourself off. Just because you haven't seen something doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And when you talk about God, you have to understand the historical reference of where God came from and how it's defined and how it's changed over time.
Yeah, there was a comedian talking about being in a hotel room and the same time, and he was laying in a bed, and next to him in the other room was like the Soundgarden guy, or well, maybe it wasn't Soundgarden. It was I forgot, one of the '90s group, and he shot himself. He killed himself. Committed suicide. And he's like, here I am talking on the phone with my wife. And then I walked downstairs, and in the room next to me, somebody just committed suicide that was famous.
Yeah.
So, and then the word had gotten around, so everybody was like, "Oh my God, did you hear about?" And he's like, and I was thinking about that, right? And it's like, in my reality, with my blinders on, how you see those horses and they put blinders on during races, for a reason, so they don't get distracted. But my seeing in my reality is nice, rosy, and I'm talking to my wife, and I just got done doing a comedy show the night before. Totally different reality than separated by 2x4 and sheetrock, where a guy's struggling with, whether he's going to end his life or not, which he ends up doing.
Right. So if you're saying, okay, I'm an atheist, here's what you've done to your reality. You've blinded it. yeah, God is not, if you do the research, God is not like the all-seeing thing, big G. People can be gods because they're evolved spiritually and intellectually, which makes them a Yahweh, which is an Isvich, which is translated to King of Wisdom, if you go back to the roots.
Right.
That's one aspect. But when you say atheism, God doesn't rule everything, and I haven't met a God, so then I guess nothing exists. And I'm going to now say that I'm not open to any other possibility or probability for anything else. Intelligent infinity? What the hell are you talking about? Get away from me. We just have, over time, these conceptual ideas that we have to take something and put it into a material sense. When you think God, you think it must look like me. It's got to have some physical being.
Yeah, it's some white bearded guy on a big throne in heaven. That has no relevance.
It has no relevance. And if you look at nature, does nature have a gender? Does it have a sexual identity? No, it doesn't.
No.
It just is what it is. It's all at the same time. And so if your first thought is for God to jump to some sort of masculine idea, you're already off the beaten path.
Yeah, and then also and I don't want to get into this too heavily, but he becomes the cruel father figure in your life that you always have to please.
Mm-hmm.
And so then, and I've seen this happen where people have submitted their free will to this belief that God is always angry with them. And this God, this masculine God, is ready to rain down judgment on them any moment that they commit a sin.
So it keeps you in fear.
So it's fear, yeah.
And it also prevents you from...
Which is not love.
Taking other creative risks. Because what if I do something that offends my God? I don't want to take creative risks. I don't want to be creative. Well, if you're not being creative, you're not being one with creation. So just the idea of saying I live under God, hierarchy, I'm not taking creative risks because I live in fear, disunifying, slows your evolution. None of those things, they should be red flags. They hinder your free will.
Yeah, and he says that's the importance and eternal truth of spiritual science remains ever dependable since the very dawn of human intelligence. That is why it must always be regarded as the primary branch of science. So he's talking about the spiritual science, what he calls it, but it's ever dependable. So I like this idea of this infinite intelligence that's ever dependable. Like it's there.
Well, it's always
eternally there.
They talk about this with their craft. Think about how their craft perfectly matches their spiritual concepts. They have a thing called the differential accumulator. It's taking in energies that are always there. And it doesn't matter what it is. It's not saying, oh, this radiation's bad for my body, I'm going to stay away from it. Oh, these photons are good for my body, I'm going to use these, right? And they're just, no, they bring them all in. They're all catalysts that can be used. That's the beauty of their technology. It perfectly matches the mindset that is of this creative abundance that is so prevalent and existent and timeless. Think about how these things come together. They match perfectly.
Yeah, and he gets, the next line is so beautiful because he gets extremely practical. So I kind of wanted just to hear for a few minutes. He says this, in the mind of man, so that's important, this is the mind, as the mind of man gains an understanding and his spiritual consciousness evolves, he becomes aware, there's so much in that sentence, of the fact that only through cooperation with man and the spiritual love of what he calls God, once again, he's using our
what he calls God, correct,
can he effectively improve the condition of his daily life. So here's the answer. Here is an answer, a solve, to help you in your daily life.
A very good one.
Extremely practical.
Yes.
So let's break this down. As the mind of man gains an understanding.
Okay, so as we look and observe our world,
right,
logical, truthful about it, okay, as we gain an understanding, then what?
Well, let's say the mind. So let's understand, what is the mind?
Well, the mind is, it's how we perceive things in the material sense and how we review them internally with our consciousness.
So it's consciousness, subconsciousness.
Yes.
Yeah, our ego, all of that.
And understanding those
Carl
relationships.
Jung does a lot in that.
Got to understand those relationships.
Right. And so as the mind of man gains an understanding, and his spiritual consciousness evolves.
Oh, interesting.
So how do you evolve your spiritual consciousness?
I have to recognize the relationship of my spirit to myself, to my mind, my actions, and all of creation. Is that making sense?
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
So I understand how trees work, myself works, I understand my spirit in relation to myself and these things. Then what?
So I'm gaining understanding. I'm evolving.
Yes.
Now, because I'm doing those, he says he becomes aware of the fact. So now here's self-awareness.
Aware of the fact.
Yes, yeah.
The fact, which is?
That only through cooperation with man, which is unity, and the spiritual love of what he calls God, can he effectively improve the conditions of his daily life. So cooperation with man.
Yeah.
That's the ultimate, that's you evolving. Like a fourth density, which are coming from third to fourth density.
Right.
Fourth density beings have unity.
That's their thought.
I mean, you go into ultimate unity is sixth density, right? Or is it fifth?
No. Fifth,
one of them is ultimate.
Six is when you're like, okay, we're really unified here.
Yeah, there's no even like.
No, that's when you get collective consciousness.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
but that's total cooperation.
Complete cooperation.
Yeah, with man and spiritual love. And that sixth density is about, Ra talks about this as far as
it's about learning.
Yeah.
It's really about learning.
But it's love, light.
That's it.
Yeah, and total unity.
That's all they're learning is total unity and love, light.
So it's always absolutely 100% correct on this statement.
It's phenomenal. And just remember, everybody, they're using the term God.
For us.
For us.
Yeah. For us to understand it.
For our understanding. For Dr. Daniel W. Fry's understanding.
Right, yes.
You have to really...
Yeah, he always makes it very clear what he calls God.
Yeah,
that's what he said.
Read clearly.
So creation, we can use infinite intelligence, whatever. I mean, the Native Americans call it Great Spirit.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever.
That's not accurate.
Yeah. What he calls God. Can he effectively, keyword, improve? So those are two words that we love in our English language.
Improve is saying my path of evolution is very linear now.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It is not all crazy and misdirected.
It's not reactive. It's proactive.
It's totally proactive, straight-lined approach. Here's how I go back to creation.
Yeah, improve the conditions of his daily life. Because men on your earth so often are reluctant to obey those spiritual laws, it may take thousands of years before the simple principle becomes a normal, everyday attitude, which will express itself continuously in the consciousness of all the individuals in your civilization.
Dude.
It's like every sentence is like...
I know. Men on your earth, thousands of years. Evolution is not a quick process. Getting out of the religious mindset, not a quick process. Finding love and understanding amongst ourselves, not a quick process. The Pleiadians said that the Catholic Church won't go away until about 3025. And about that point is when we really understand that we don't need it.
They have enough money to last till then.
To last till then.
So when you have money in the United States or anywhere in the globe, you have influence.
Yes.
So let's end in this. He said, from the foundation provided by the spiritual and social science, the necessary foundation for the development of material science emerges. So see this Maslow's hierarchy of, we can call it that way, but it's almost this foundation. So the foundation, he says, the bottom of the pyramid, provided by the spiritual and social sciences, then that should influence, like with you talked about their accumulator, then that should influence the material science.
And that's what it does.
And then that begins to emerge.
Their craft can't move unless it gets the influence of these other things upon it.
Yes, and he says...
Cause effect.
And this is the point where solutions to the problems which exist in your civilization begin to be solved more easily.
Yeah.
So this is the key to solving all our problems.
Can we just use this effing blueprint right here?
Just these 2 pages?
He talks about all of our podcasting for years in 2 pages.
It's pretty crazy.
Thanks, bro.
Yeah, Ra does this very, very in a mathematical, more. This is easy to read.
This is easy to read.
So Alan made it very, very easy for us. This is my type of style.
Yeah, Ra's
I can dissect this. Oh, okay, yeah.
Is immense precision.
Yeah, so let's end in this because we're coming up on the time. Spiritual awareness, spiritual evolution.
Yes.
Is so freeing and so simple.
It can't be complex. And then it wouldn't work for everybody. It's got to work for you and it's got to work for everyone. It's got to work for creation. Logic is not complex. It's really boiled down and straightforward.
So that primitive tribe that never heard of Jesus, that's going to go to hell because they never heard of him, this solves that problem.
You bet it does.
Because it's like they can become aware of creation and evolve.
And that's what they have been doing.
Yeah.
More so than we have. We've been aware of material science, but they're aware of the social and spiritual.
Yeah, and you talked about this the other day, is our technology has gone way past the spiritual science.
Yes, and that's a problem.
Yeah, I love this. I think we need to use these terminologies a little bit more with these material science and spiritual science and social science. I think we'll have to add those to the website.
I agree.
That'd be really cool.
I agree.
So last thing, we want to make sure all you guys go to higherdensityliving.com. We're almost done with our 501c3. So that means that our listeners that are out there can be a part. We're going to be having some merch, some T-shirts and stuff like that here really soon.
Mm-hmm.
But if you, one of the things that I want us to understand is the ability to be able to share something and how much influence you can have on someone's life.
Yeah. And it's
by
not
sharing.
It's not to control, but it's to share something positive that affords them the opportunity to learn on their own time.
So if you love this episode, the number one thing you can do, not just for the podcast, but for helping your friends and family and those that you love,
Share it.
is to share it. Yeah. And so that's all we ask. We don't ask for, I mean, we're going to have donations on there and you can donate, but the main thing is that we get this message out there globally.
Yeah.
Until we get 7.5 billion people listening,
we're not done with our job.
We're not done.